are back with another episode. This week we're talking about 1993's Man's Best Friend, a movie that when I was watching it, Barb walked in and said, "What's this?" And I said, "It's a horror movie from 1993." And she said, "An infamously great year for horror movies." So, Scott, let's talk about Man's Best Friend. Probably the only horror film that I've ever enjoyed with this much dog violence.
Well, I think that this movie is hilarious. That's why I had to do it to us. It's more of a comedy than an actual horror movie in my mind.
Scott, I have no clue what the hell the tone of this movie is. All I know is that I'm excited for my double feature because I think I found the perfect double feature for this. And we'll get there later. But this is, from the very second that this movie kicks off with this elegant orchestrated score
and
over photos of dogs.
Great.
It just sets such a goofy... Well, before we hit record, I had just said to Kyle, this is a movie that I never think, ooh, I want to watch Man's Best Friend. But anytime that I'm in a situation where I'm watching Man's Best Friend, I'm like, this is a fun time. This is not the worst way to spend 90 minutes.
This was a first time watch for me, but I've been so familiar with the DVD art. I don't even remember. I never saw it on tape. I just remember I perpetually... Anywhere I went, there was a used DVD copy for $6. I swear it was always $6 wherever it was, and I had never picked it up. But I'm so glad we got to watch it here now, and it's available for free on YouTube currently. If hopefully when this episode drops too, it's very easy to get access to.
Which the artwork that you have behind you is the way better artwork. There's another one that's
Wait, there's another one.
There's another one. It's just like a Photoshop of the dog barking with Man's Best Friend in a shitty red font.
Oh,
it actually looks like John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness effect, where it's the dog is stretched.
Yeah,
the dog's face is stretched.
Horrible cover.
Yeah. And no, this one rules. I will say that it did allude to a more robotic dog than I had gotten, but
so I had never watched this movie until can you guys remember what I was gonna pick, or did I just run out of ideas because
you texted us a list, and I think it was between this and The Gate 2.
Oh, which stay tuned for January.
We'll get there. I have actually been on another podcast talking about this movie.
Really?
The Greatest Movie Ever podcast.
Oh, yeah.
For reasons I don't know, and Paul has even said he doesn't know, but this had come up as a movie for him to review, and he thought Matt Kelly would be a good guest for this one. And that was maybe only the second time I'd ever seen it. I had bought it on a Scream Factory Blu-ray discount situation, and watched it when it came in the mail and was like, yeah, this was fun. And then I did it for his podcast. And the joy of having kids, even though I had a Blu-ray that I could watch, I was trapped upstairs where I don't have a DVD or Blu-ray player. So I had to watch the YouTube version with commercials interrupting the movie. Which definitely added a solid 10 minutes to the runtime.
I don't understand. I watched it on YouTube and had no commercials, and I don't pay for YouTube Premium, so I don't know what happened.
Did you have the ad blocker up though?
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
I was streaming.
I watched it on a Roku.
Yeah, I had on my Roku TV watching YouTube. I did not have that option.
Lucky duck.
Yeah,
I was just looking, and it looked like Army of Darkness and Matinee were also. This was back in January that we had made a decision on Man's Best Friend. And it was 1993 horror movies that we were looking at for whatever reason.
No. Are you talking about for me?
Yeah.
This was literally last month.
Oh, you know what? That was 2023.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Wait,
it's been on the docket.
This has been on the. Did Matt put it on the docket?
This
back in 2023.
From what Kyle just told me, it sounds like this was because 2 years ago, this would have been an anniversary film. So it probably was me sending a list of hey, here's some potential anniversary picks if someone's looking for ideas.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was up. I mean, I do remember
I could go back, but just wizard behind the curtain. When I can't decide on movies, I'll make a poll in our group chat, and I'll be like, "Help me!" So this one won out, and Matt was like, "This is fine, but be prepared. There's dog death," and I was like, "Yeah, but it's kind of a heroic death." I think. And he was like, sure. So this is probably one of the only times that we will discuss a movie with knowing that there's dog death in it. And it's okay because Max is kind of the villain in this. He
starts off heroic, man. He fights a potential robber and rapist. By unlocking a door, which that is the beginning of my favorite dog effects. Is just the shitty dog paw and head doing human things.
I truly love so much about this movie that I just can't fault it for the fact that the monster has to die at the end. But the thing also about this movie is that two things about dog deaths. One, I was going through some of my prospective picks for the show, and sadly, we will not be doing the Boogans, which is also quite slow. But there's this awesome Bichon poodle mix in it. Named Tiger, I want to say. It's like a crusty white dog, and it's very, very cute. And he gets eaten by the monster. So I was like, that's not happening. But I also want to dedicate my drink this week, which is white wine, to our recently deceased dog Roan. He died back in January. He's Megan's soul dog. We got him a couple months after Megan moved in. So we had him for almost 15 years. Wow. And he was kind of always lightweight sick, he always had something wrong. The reason why I have this white wine is because the story I have to tell, which Megan suggested when I was trying to figure out what drink to pair this movie with. And it was Christmas Eve of, I want to say 2015 or so. Megan was not feeling well, but she was in bed, and her mom stopped by to wish her, a happy Christmas Eve. And her mom, or maybe I, poured a glass of wine in a stemless wine glass, just like the one I'm holding. My mother-in-law at some point must have put it down on the ground. Then she picked it up and didn't think anything of it. She was like, "Oh, I guess I need more wine." And our dog Roan started to act funny, and like I said, he was always a little chronically ill, so I'm like, oh no, because he was like bumping into walls, and he pissed like for no reason, and I'm like, oh my god, is Roan having a fucking stroke? We take him to the vet, the animal ER, right? And they admit us, they put us into a room. And Megan is, like bawling hysterically because she's like, oh my God, not Roan, no. And so I leave that little observation room and I come back in with the Kleenex and I go, baby, come outside and come back in. And she's like, what? And I'm like, just go outside and come back in the room. It smelled like oxidizing alcohol. He had gotten into our mother-in-law's glass of wine because he loved wine. He would lick Megan's lips when she would drink white wine all the time. And so he was like, oh my God, this glass of wine is all mine. And so he was fucking drunk on Christmas Eve. We thought he was dying. So he had to sleep it off at the dog ER. And we picked him up the next day on Christmas Day, and the vet bill was like $600 for just observation. But here's to Roan, the fucking dog wino.
To Roan.
What's your fun story with your drink, Kyle?
My only the only fun story that I have about my drink is that it's going to be my drink for this episode and the next episode. It's called Hootin' and Howlin'. Now, for those on the Patreon, there's an owl on the can. I do know this. And I could have gone with the same brewery did a Dogs and Boats, which I've often used had accompanying. But the howlin' part is very appropriate for this one. The hootin' part more appropriate for next week's film. So I've never been able to kind of do like a double whammy like this, but it did save me a little bit of money to be able to
just
buy
get a 4-pack. And the funny thing is that my drink originally was going to be there's a local brewery called Thirsty Dog. They're in Akron, and they have a dog. They have all of their beers are titled with dogs in the name, right? And I was like, I need to get an old leg humper. Because it's exactly what Max 3000 is. He's a fucking horny dog. We'll get to that. I know that we have been kind of waiting to get. Thank you, listeners, for the preamble, getting through the preamble. Let me give a quick little explanation of the plot. So, Man's Best Friend from 1993, starring Ali Sheedy and Lance Henriksen. So a scientist, it opens with a scientist who's working at an animal testing lab, and she's going to help Ali Sheedy. Her character's name is Lori. She is an investigative journalist, and she's going to help Lori blow the lid off the lab's operation by helping her get in and doing an expose before she is conveniently mauled to death by an unseen animal that is subsequently tranquilized by an unseen person wearing a denim jacket. If you've seen the cover of the VHS, you know that's Lance Henriksen's character, Dr. Jarrett. So Lori and her camera woman subsequently break into the lab and are immediately caught by the laziest night guard we've seen in quite a while. And he's like, hey, get back here. And then Max gets out of his cage again. He playfully knocks over some 50-gallon KY buckets onto the night guard, and then they all escape, but not before Lance Henriksen sees all this transpire. So they're gonna take Max home with them as part of it, because Ali Lori is, you know, she's such a sweetheart. She loves dogs, and Max is so sweet to her. He's basically imprinted on her. She has no idea that he's a bloodthirsty killing machine, because she gets mugged and the purse snatcher gets eviscerated. I think he gets his face chewed off by Max, who then brings back her purse, and she's like, oh, you're such a good dog. Come home with me. She doesn't tell her live-in boyfriend, Perry, that there is now this 100-pound slobber monster staying at the house. But to which, you know, Max does not like Perry. And to Max's credit, Perry is a total douchebag.
I was going to say, Perry sucks, but he's not wrong in being upset that this dog has just showed up on his front stoop like this. But he sucks. Like, he's
a fucking asshole. Yeah, I mean, he's a very morally gray character. You know, like he's a dickhead. He's not wrong in his assertion that there should have been a conversation, but at the same time, he's a total neg, and he's an asshole. He's sort of
late stage yuppie. It feels like he's like,
very much so.
He's just never evolved.
He definitely works with spreadsheets.
Yeah, there's also like this element where it's like, okay, Perry's in the right because this is a psychotic, genetically enhanced dog. But in like the 99.9999999% chance that wasn't the case, he'd probably still be acting like this, which like
that's true. The odds are not in his favor, but he just
his inevitable demise is the highlight of the movie for me, and we'll get to that. But before that, he tells Lori that Max has to sleep outside, and she reluctantly agrees, and then he tries to seduce her, and then Max is like, no one's fucking my mom, and so he comes in, he completely cock blocks Perry, which is great. But he definitely, like, Max the dog has narcissistic personality disorder, because all he does is love bomb Lori and literally torture and terrorize everyone and everything else in the neighborhood. He scares the shit out of a paperboy for no reason. He swallows a cat whole.
Dude, let's not just bypass this for a second.
I'm trying to bypass that for a very good reason, Matt.
This dog climbs a tree to get to this cat.
Yeah.
And we get the most psychotic shot of a prosthetic dog head with what seems to be a live cat just being pulled through this prosthetic head. But the fact that the dog's mouth is not moving at all.
Hilarious.
I don't remember.
It was almost my background.
Yeah.
I almost put it as my background. And I was like, I don't want to look at that. Forever.
I don't remember if this was established in the movie, but the Wikipedia says like Max was like genetically enhanced with features of all these animals, one of which being an anaconda. And I was like, well, there's our anaconda moment.
If it's established in the movie, I was not paying attention the 2 times I watched it, all right? Because I watched it to make sure that it was good, and then I watched it again yesterday, and I did not hear a single thing about an anaconda.
But we also do get that dog has like 3D peeper views to be able to look through a peephole and perfectly see sex happening on a bed.
And what else? What did they say? Like he was also spliced with an octopus so that he could go invisible.
That's right. That's right.
But I mean, really, this is a comedy. Another one of his part of his power set is he has acid piss. Like I don't know what creature has acid piss, but this, like, I want this character to be in a comic book because these are all comic book powers.
So this is what it says. It says Jared is questioned by the police about Max and reveals that Max is a genetically altered dog spliced with the DNA of various other animals, including lions, snakes, chameleons, and birds of prey, which give him enhanced strength, speed, and senses.
Okay, so I remember that scene, but I seriously don't hear him.
Yeah, I
don't remember him
lab.
specifically being like, he can be a chameleon. Also, chameleons don't go invisible. They don't even like Max when the dog catchers later on are coming after him and he like
turns
is
into a pile
invisible.
Of garbage junk.
Yeah. He's not. It's not like he just looks like his surroundings. He's invisible until he's visible.
Yeah.
Very
the goofiest dog catchers in the goddamn world. Like
those guys reminded me of. Do you remember in Halloween 5 those fucking cops that have the like the vaudeville sounds when they show up on screen?
The Keystone Cops come through. Yeah, it's like
these dog catchers were the exact same kind of character.
Yeah. My vibe that I got was like that they were just 2 random surfer extras from whatever movie they were filming down the street.
This is a New Line movie, so
and they just threw them in dog catcher costumes and were like, also go out there and be dog catchers. And they were like still acting like they did in Hard Ticket to Hawaii or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm fine with that. That makes total sense. You know, we also have Max is so smart that he knows what brake lines are, and he chews Perry's brake lines. And then he also, in an equally hilarious scene, finds the neighborhood bitch, literally, and they have the most hilarious scene. Like, this movie is a comedy. I will die on this hill. Puppy Love is playing in the background, and so Max walks into the house, this neighborhood collie's house.
It's sort of like a seductive chase up to the like.
Yeah,
he's
and
like,
she like hides behind a pillow, and he closes the door with his butt. Like they literally taught this dog how to close the door with his butt, and then he humps the shit out of this dog, and she goes ow, and her mom's like Fluffy or whatever. Like it's like she knows that her dog is getting railed. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Well, so next up, I think that you need to talk about, because we're getting there, and it's kind of what I think makes this movie so enjoyable. We've talked about how he bites Perry's brake lines. Perry is now dead set on revenge and tries to poison this dog. Yeah. Right? We get this shot of the dog walking the food bowl to the toilet, flopping the food into the toilet bowl, and then the hand flushing the toilet. And it was at that moment that I was reminded of what I still think is one of the funniest reoccurring bits in the history of Conan O'Brien's late night talk show, which is the sketch where they're doing a demonstration of NBC's guard dogs. Have you ever seen this sketch?
No. Explain it to me, please.
It's 2 security guards standing there, and they're like, yeah, we got this new guard dog. He's great. His name's Ginger. He's super well trained. he's also unfortunately trained to use lethal force, but we've tried to make sure that he knows not to do that. And then all of a sudden Conan looks panicked, and the one instructor goes, "Ginger, no!" And it's just like a German Shepherd sitting there, and a German Shepherd puppet hand pops up with a gun and shoots the other guard with it. And it's like so intentionally fake looking, and that's how I feel every time this dog Paul does like anything. The part where I started losing it and really having fun is that this dog wrecks a mailman, which is like violent. Oh, yeah. But then we see the dog burying the evidence underneath the deck.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I love it so much.
There is a pretty prominent Letterboxd user, but who was also a member, part of the Vinegar Syndrome team, Justin LaLiberty, and I think he's the one who said that this is Beethoven meets Cujo, and I thought that from the jump, and I'm so glad that somebody else thought that and said it, because it really... I mean, it truly is. It plays like a kid's movie or a comedy so much.
Well, it has that kid that is played by there's a kid in this.
Is it Laurie's son or Laurie's neighbor?
It's her neighbor. His name is
they own the
Rudy.
Lady Dog. Yeah.
Yeah, Rudy comes over all the time and she feeds him, and that kid is in a lot of kid movies from the early 90s. Yeah. So that doesn't hurt the argument that this is Beethoven versus Beethoven meets Cujo.
It's just so fun. But you're right, like that postal worker's death is gnarly.
Yeah.
And that's only like a mid movie death. There's plenty more that happens beyond that, and it just gets crazier and crazier. I think the acid piss happens later.
Yes, Perry gets
but they establish the acid piss early because he pees on a fire hydrant and we watch it crumble.
Yeah. And then so the Perry tries to poison Max. You see all that stuff, and then he runs after Perry, and so Perry convinces Laurie to take Max to the local junkyard, and junkyard man Ray, who's played by a guy who was in Blade Runner, that's what I know him from. He starts off nice. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to take him out to the farm tomorrow, and they love it. I'll just keep him until you don't, until your situation changes, and if that happens, I can offer him back to you, but you probably won't want to leave." And then, as soon as she leaves, he's like, "I'm gonna make you the meanest junkyard dog in town." And
did not like this shot that we're about to talk about. Takes out a fucking shovel. A shovel
smashes him. Yeah.
Holy shit!
The first thing that if I would have smacked a 100-pound dog on the back of the head with a shovel and it didn't fucking cave its head in, I would have had questions. Yeah. I would never do that. But I'm just saying, if I was Junkyard Man Ray, I've been like, maybe one chain connected to a car engine is probably not gonna hold this guy, and so he is like, "Oh, if you won't shut up, I'm going to burn your face off." And so, obviously, Max gets off of his chain, and he goes after Ray. Ray burns him in the face, and then it only stops him momentarily. Ray is going to shoot him, and then Max eats his nuts.
Bites his sack right off. It's amazing.
Yeah, right off. I think it's the goriest death of the whole movie, actually, because all this blood sprays up onto Junkman Ray's face. So from there, Max runs home, only to find that Perry, who also enjoys love bombing Laurie, has brought her a new, like a Jack Russell Terrier named Spike.
It's a cute ass dog. It is.
He's such a cute dog. He actually is a hero. We'll get to that later. But so cute ass dog, but this will not stand. And so Max fights Perry, and then decides that it is time to degrade him as he murders him. Pisses his face off.
Yep.
And then so all hell is breaking loose. These guys, I think they're like secret agent men or detectives or something. They come to the house. They're shooting at Max. Max runs away. And so that's when the whole dog catchers and Max going invisible thing happens. And they make their way back. Well, so Jarrett finally finds Lori and gets her in the car and says, I've been tranquilizing Max for forever. If we don't tranquilize him again, he will turn on you, even though he hasn't yet. And she's like, no. And so he's got her in the car. He's driving her back to the lab. And then Max finds them and he pounces and he's like fighting at them, biting them through the windshield. They have a horrible car wreck. And Ali Sheedy,
he's riding on the roof of this car while they're flying through the street. It's pretty crazy.
It's a very slasher moment in this movie.
It's like slasher and actiony too. It's like, we talked about it like being comedy horror, but then they have like these moments that are just like also adjacent. It's really wild.
It's such the tone is so funny. Matt is right that the tone really doesn't ever fit. It's fine. I enjoy this movie very much.
Yeah.
So they then go into the lab, that testing facility, and they're being so Lori is being chased by Max, but then she befriends him, and Jarrett is coming after them. Jarrett says, I need to shoot him, and she says no, and then he shoots Max. Somehow he gets tossed onto an electrified fence or electrified cage, and then Spike, who is also smart, because this movie is full of very smart dogs, he somehow electrocutes Dr. Jarrett to death, and Max dies in Lori's arms. And then fast forward a couple months, the collie next door has had puppies. They're all bouncing around being cute, except for one of them, which has the same coloring as Max, and it growls, fade to black.
Yeah. What an ending. As Puppy Love plays for the second time, as they zoom in. What a delightful movie.
It really is.
Such a strange film. Hey Geekscapists, it's Matt Kelly here. You know me from my appearances on basically every show on the network, as well as the work that I do on our YouTube channel, Geekscape TV. And I'm here to let you know that on December 6th, we are having the 5th annual Geekscape Holiday Live Stream Spectacular. That's right, another 24-hour event of us going through all of the different shows, hanging out with each other, and most importantly, trying to raise money for the Big Brothers Big Sisters of coastal and northern New Jersey. We've made it extra easy for people to donate this year. Just go to geekscapegives.com. It'll take you right to our donation page so that you can go and make a difference in a child's life. Also, we're hoping that you'll tune in. If you're a night owl, from 12:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on December 6th, we'll be running a 9-hour video of some of our favorite moments from the first 4 live stream events before we dive straight in at 9 a.m. We'll be talking to Charlene from Big Brothers Big Sisters. We'll be watching some silly videos together. The people from Horror Movie Night and Jersey Ghouls are going to be ranking all of the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. There's going to be music trivia from One Hit Thunder. Napping Through Happy Hour is going to be doing a collab with other people from the podcast. The big final event at 10 p.m. is a giant Geekscape role-playing game where we are Muppets trying to save Santa Claus. There's not going to be a single second that you're going to want to miss of this live stream. So whether you're at work or at home, throw it on in the background. Let us entertain you for 24 straight hours of podcasting gold. And more importantly than any of that, visit geekscapegives.com and make a donation. You can make a donation starting today, but the live stream is December 6th. We hope you'll tune in. Scott, let's talk about double features right here, because I think that there's more to say about this movie as we open up these double features.
Well, I feel like one of them would make more sense thematically, but the scene that sticks with me is beyond the acid piss. I have to go with the uninvited because Kyle, I'm so sorry. Did I take yours?
It's okay. It was my second.
It's literally uninvited but reversed. You know, it's the cat going in the mouth instead of coming out of the mouth. And they're both absolutely insane.
The Uninvited makes the most sense plot-wise.
Yeah.
Kyle, I'm going to let you go before me, just in case.
It's a less fun movie. It's a little more... it's a little harder watch, but Shakma is what came to me. I
think
that
a monkey movie?
That's
Shakma?
a baboon loose
yes.
in a. I mean, it's a lab, but it's kind of like more of like an office building, really, than anything. But it's gnarly. And I do have a third, but it's really not super appropriate. Go ahead, Matt.
So I think that Uninvited is the correct thing. It's just a genetically enhanced cat versus a dog. But the whole time I was watching this movie, I thought, God, if you had told me this was based on a Stephen King novel, I would believe it because it's so bombastic. And that's when I realized that a year prior to this movie, tonally, the most appropriate double feature was released, and that was Mick Garris's Sleepwalkers. Sleepwalkers and this movie make a very weird stylistic sense together because they are both like horror
Domestic
movies
Dread.
that are unreasonably hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, and Death
Dread.
by Dog Piss and Death by Corn Cob. It's really hard to say which one is better.
They're so insane. Kyle, what was the other one that you were thinking about?
I was just thinking about Roar because like Roar is also
Roar. I don't know that one.
That's the one where they acted with a real lion and a lot of people got hurt, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that movie.
Many lions, and it's just because tonally, like the tone is all over the place, but the tone is all over the place because you can't direct live animals like you can't do that and make a comprehensible movie. But this one is different. I wouldn't necessarily ever want to watch Roar.
No, but
on the tail of this. But yeah.
But you know what you might want to watch, Kyle, is on December 6th, the Geekscape 24-hour holiday live stream event that we're going to be a part of, talking about the official rankings of the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. Also, if you just love horror movie night, go and hit up our Patreon, patreon.com/HMN podcast. Beyond getting bonus episodes and early episodes, if you do the highest tier, you can see videos of us. And if you were watching videos of us, you would see that 2 out of 3 of us are rocking some great merch. So go to Patreon to get that video content. Go to our TeePublic to get some cool exclusive shirts. Go to hmnpodcast.com to get even more merch. And find us on social medias. Hang out with us. We're going to have a good time. Lastly, Scott, let's talk about some stuff that we read, listened to, etc. that we are pretty stoked about. Scott, what do you got that you've done this week that you want to talk about?
All right. So I really want to talk about this band that has kind of really blown me away. And I sent it to you guys the other day, and I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it. And I apologize to the artist and anyone who loves them if I mispronounce the name, but I believe that they are called Jaharia. And their newest record, it came out this year. I think it came out in August. It's called Trust Ceremony. And the only way that it's so weird. It's like such a good weird. The way that it says that, like on Bandcamp, you can have your little bio, and all it says is no genre, just drama. Or it says no genre, all drama. And I feel like that really encapsulates what this band does. It's kind of piano rock with a lot of like R&B soul.
I'm excited to dive into this. I got distracted by Master of the Trumpets and totally forgot
Master
that you
Trumpets
also
today.
said...
Yeah, I sent this last week. But so this Trust Ceremony record, to me, sounds kind of like a crazy mix of old Panic at the Disco, My Chemical Romance, and maybe some Childish Gambino. More of like the Awake My Love era,
like later era.
Yeah, not
Childish
rap,
Gambino.
more of the kind of soul stuff, but it's also got some really odd emo core aspects to it with a little bit of screaming. It's very hard to categorize, but it is fantastic.
I'm definitely listening to this when we're done recording,
It
because you are
is so
selling me
eclectic.
real hard on this.
Really, I don't know how to explain it, but I would love everybody to listen to it. Give it a chance. You can check out their Bandcamp. You can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Play Music, wherever. But I'm going to say the name. I'm going to spell it. It's, I believe, called Jaharia, and it's spelled Jhariah. And the album is called Trust Ceremony, and they're from New York City.
All right. Kyle, how about you go next?
I watched Spider Baby for the first time. Jack Hill's Spider Baby.
Oh, I've never seen it.
I'm not going to say much because I do think that I might pick it for the show.
Okay.
I've been waiting. That's why I've never done it.
Like, I think that it's from an era that we don't touch upon often. I think that it speaks to a lot of our sensibilities as far as a flick goes. And, I mean, I didn't realize how much of an influence it has had and continues to have on independent horror in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, there's direct correlation to House of Thousand Corpses, which is
yeah.
I will say I didn't know. I didn't understand. Like, I knew that like White Zombie had the Spider Baby song. I knew that there was like Sid Haig was in, like, all I knew the sort of like the real solid connective tissue. But like I didn't understand sort of the tonal like connective tissue, and there's so much to love, and I'm excited to talk more about it in the future. But I'm if anybody wants to sort of get ahead of the game on what we might talk about here, Spider Baby was spectacular. I also rewatched Pink Flamingos for the first time since.
Was that a double feature for you? Because that sounds like
that's a
double
hell of
feature.
a night. Yeah.
It was split with a film festival, but we were I was hanging out with our buddy Jeanette and my wife Carly. We went to Brooklyn for the Bushwick Film Festival. Ouchie had played, and we watched Spider Baby at night, and we watched Pink Flamingos early afternoon, which is crazy. Before we went to MoMA, it was just a very cultured day.
Wow, that is the most New York City day I can imagine.
Yeah, it was gnarly. And I mean, Pink, like, I don't know what else there was a lot that I forgot was in Pink Flamingos. Speaking of dog, there was a lot that I forgot was in Pink Flamingos. There's some stuff that I actually found really challenging, but then like it just when you listen or read about John Waters directly responding to anything that he's done, I appreciate that so much. Like it's one
of
hard
those
not to be
it's one
like,
of those,
oh, you're a genuine artist, you know?
Yeah. It's
like,
definitely one of those films you need to know what he was rebelling against to even mildly appreciate. Because the story that I've always heard, and I don't know how factual this is, was that he was friends with the people who made Deep Throat. Mm-hmm. And the people who made Deep Throat very infamously were like arrested for obscenity. Yeah. And him in his very punk rock way was like, motherfucker, I'll show you what obscenity looks like. That's just sex. And tried to make something so beyond like anything that could be even considered sexual or tasteful in just some depraved, fucked up ways. But it is a challenging movie, and it's a movie I've watched more than most people should watch, Pink Flamingos. But it's
you've watched
still
it a
like
lot.
I've probably watched that movie over 30 times, and I still find moments of it very challenging to watch because it is just
I think that there's a lot of times that I'll watch it, like, I mean, not a lot of times, but I think it's hard to be challenged now and not think of the consequences or the repercussions or of the reasoning as to why I'm being challenged when I watch something like Pink Flamingos. It's very raw. It's just so raw that I don't think that there is an expectation. I mean, besides what you're saying about the intention, there's no reciprocal expectation of how somebody should respond in a lot of ways. Like, at least not, I don't know. It was very lovely to watch again years after, knowing the bits and bobs that I remembered, but then also being exposed to the shit that I forgot. Like, just being like, oh my God, that whole, storyline or that whole portion of the film I completely forgot about.
Yeah.
The prolapse just looked me in my face and I forgot all about it. Carly didn't. She was like, oh, I know what's coming, and I didn't. Wow, what a time.
I mean, it's interesting to think that this, and like 2 years later you get Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I think they both have a similar vibe of like, it is an uncomfortable watch because of how low the budget is, and the budget makes it feel like you can't escape staring at something very definitively real.
And it just makes me worry about everybody.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
just so
concerned
worried
about everybody.
everyone.
Yeah, no, it's a wild movie. I watched something even older than both of the movies you named because my brother and I went and saw the 1931 Frankenstein.
That's right, you did.
That's right.
At a museum in Doylestown, Pennsylvania called the Mercer Museum. And it's
I
literally
wanted
like
to go there so many times.
It's like a big ass castle, and they do it outside, so you have this castle behind the screen while you're watching Frankenstein. A lot of things that you forget about the original Frankenstein. A few that I'll just mention. The character who built Frankenstein, not Victor Frankenstein, but Henry Frankenstein, because at the time they thought Victor was too challenging of a name for the American people.
Interesting.
His assistant's name is Fritz in the movie, not Igor. The one that blew my mind was the credit for based on the story by was not Mary Shelley, but Mrs. Perry Shelley.
Whoa.
So it's like, it really, like, there's like those moments where you're just like, God damn. But 70-minute runtime, and that film fucking starts with them grave robbing. And it was like one of those things where I realized, like, yes, is it this brilliant kind of marketing ploy to start the movie with like a guy coming out behind a curtain and just being like, hey, before we start this movie, we just need to warn you that like some of the stuff that you see might like really upset you, but like, don't complain to us, like we warned you. And then he goes back behind the curtain. But I was thinking, like, man, 1931 starting a movie with people digging up a dead body to like harvest it for parts, it's literally, they dig up a freshly dug body and then find a criminal who was hanged and climbs up the tree to cut down the rope to also harvest some of his body parts. And you're like, all right, this is actually really fucking vile for 1931.
They really keep in mind the Hays Code.
2 world wars.
Yeah, the Hays Code didn't come into effect until the 40s, right? Or was it late 30s?
Yeah, but it was still banned in a lot. Like they had to do. So the thing I also learned was for many, many years, the most iconic line of the movie was assumedly gone, which was when the guy says, Henry, what in the name of God? And he says, in the name of God, now I get to know what it feels like to be God. They had cut out that line with like a lightning bolt. And it was literally, it wasn't until like in our lifetime that they found the isolated audio to put it back into the movie. Wow. So it's like, it's crazy. It truly is a masterpiece. Like James Whale's such a good filmmaker. And as soon as I came home, I'm like, I'm going to watch Bride of Frankenstein as well, because it is like a great companion piece. But yeah, I mean, just, hey, go watch Frankenstein, I guess.
Perfect expansion of the discussion of a dog built from parts as well.
Yes. And also,
absolutely
like,
right.
Shout out, obviously, like Boris Karloff gets a lot of deserved credit. But I mean, Colin Clive playing Henry Frankenstein is just giving like the performance of a lifetime in this movie. So I just say rewatch it. It is an easy breezy hour and 10 minutes. And it's like, even the lulls are like, for like 2 minutes, you're like, all right, this scene's kind of boring. And then you're like right back into the castle for more craziness. So
that might be a watch tonight, actually.
It's so worth it. I've been watching a lot of the black and white ones throughout October. I always end up doing that. So that's what I did in October. Next week, we're talking about December movies already. And Kyle's got, the most Christmassy pick I can imagine.
Do you feel that? Do you feel that crisp air? Ooh, it's chilly. It's chilly. Watch out.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.